Kobe's performance in the 2004 finals is worse than LeBron's performance in the 2011 finals. And if social media was more prevalent at the time, Kobe would be more criticized for it today. That one is pretty valid, I would say. It's different though. Like, they both sucked in different ways. First of all, I would say that LeBron was defended phenomenally by the Dallas Mavericks. Like, I kind of feel like the whole LeBron choked thing does overshadow that. Like, Dallas had a great defensive game plan for him. Probably the best defense I've ever seen played against him. Part of it was Miami's lack of spacing, the ability to just completely ignore Joel Anthony. The guy was doubled on the catch more often than not. In the case of Kobe was out there trying to like prove himself and like overshadow Shaq, because at this point their relationship was really in the mud and this was really their breaking point. But here we have the stats from that series. And yeah, 22.6 points per game, 4.4 assists. He had 18 turnovers across 5 games, so that's 3.5-ish a game, somewhere in that ballpark. Shot 38% from the field, hit 4 of his 23 three-point attempts. He also didn't even get to the line that much relative to what he's normally capable of. And if we look at what he averaged this season beforehand, I mean, yeah, his points were down this year. I was thinking it was this year where he averaged 30 that this happened. So, I mean, it makes it not as bad, but it's still very, very bad. Pretty significant dip in his field goal percentage, huge dip in his three-point percentage cut nearly in half. Very, very awful performance. And the other thing is that he had a less of an all-around impact than LeBron. Like, say what you will about his scoring in that series, and understandably so, but like, he was at least getting assists and rebounds and playing really good defense, and he was at least pretty efficient when he did shoot the ball. Yeah, 7 rebounds, 7 assists. He was good defensively the whole series. Like, yeah, I think there's a good case to be made that this is at least a little bit better than what Kobe did. Both of them were playing great defenses, but like, I think what makes it, what's worse to you? Is it trying to take over and sucking at it, or being too timid? Because that's the contrast that we have here. Kobe was doing too much and LeBron was doing too little. So I guess it depends on what is worse to you from your point of view. I would lean towards Kobe being a little bit worse though, because like, I'd rather LeBron play like an S tier role player than Kobe play like a garbage star. But obviously with LeBron, you expect more than S tier role player. Either way, basically, I don't know that there are many other finals performances from top 10 players of all time that get much worse than this. So I'm inclined to agree with you, but I don't think it's necessarily a one-to-one. Like, it's not a given is the way that I would put it. I think it's close enough. The channel, drop a like on this video, try and hit 40k subs, so that subscription would be much appreciated. We are back with Discord hot takes, and if you would like to participate in these videos, you will have to subscribe to our Patreon page. I think it's $3 a month, and you would get access to that as well as some early content, especially deep dive stuff. Click that link down in the description. It should be the top one if you would like to join. But with that said, let's get into these takes. There is no way you are doing this. There is literally no way that you are a subscriber of Jacob RR Buckets and you are saying this stupid bullshit that is blatantly incorrect. From John ASM, everyone calls Jokic the best player in the world, but nobody talks about how his defense still gets exposed every playoffs when teams actually scheme for him. He puts up wild numbers, but half of that comes from Denver's perfect system built around his passing. I don't even fucking see that. What the hell? That's so stupid. If he played on a normal roster with average spacing, he would look way more human. Yeah, and if I had wheels, I'd be a bike. What the shit? He looks more human. People act like his playmaking is revolutionary, but it really is just big man dribble handoff spam with elite shooters bailing him out. So you're just trolling. So you are just saying complete horseshit. This is a bit. I really hope that's a bit. In fact, let me reply to this. This better be a fucking bit. You just said, oh, I'm on Rudy's account. You just slandered him and I'd used your voice to do it. That's on you, buddy. How does it feel? How does it feel when everyone gives me shit for what a video is titled and it's not even up to me? No, fucking garbage take. What in the shit? You better be joking. Gets exposed. Oh my God. Oh no, they found one of the greatest playmakers ever and gave him good play finishers. I guess that means he's not really a good playmaker. Shut the fuck up. Thank you for subscribing to the Patreon, but come on! I'm not that money hungry. I will tell you your take sucks even if you're paying me. Nothing but the truth. You should be embarrassed. Two hot takes, feel free to choose. Kendrick Perkins was a solid center back in the day. Just because he has brain dead takes doesn't mean he was a bum. I mean, yeah, I mean, that's objectively true. I think it's a little silly the way that we'll find, like, if a player joins the media, but that player wasn't very good, we'll go, yeah, that guy shouldn't be talking because he was a bad player, but simultaneously, like, people who weren't a player at all, they're not getting that criticism. I mean, they are just getting criticism for not being a player, period. Believe me, I've experienced it myself. But weirdly, there will be people like Zach Lowe is valid, but then Kendrick Perkins isn't because he sucked, even though he didn't. I don't know. It's just people take whatever dig they can. Like, oh my God, he didn't average 20 points. He must have sucked. From Connor, SGA should not be in the conversation for top 2 in the NBA. Let me preface by saying he's not a free throw merchant and is one of the top 5 players in the league today. However, in my opinion, he is not particularly close to Giannis or Jokic. He has 2 decent limitations to his game that specifically led me to this conclusion. 1, his 3-point shot, great shooting splits to end the regular season last year, followed by a hard fall off in the playoffs, like a 5% drop off. I think it's bigger than that. While no, that isn't entirely his fault, as the spacing around him is suspect, I don't think he's given us enough sample size to label him as a great shooter. It depends on if God, I really wish people would clarify this, and it bothers me every time. When you say shooter, you shouldn't mean just 3-point shooter. He is a great shooter because he is so fucking good from mid-range that even if his 3 ball is not that great, he is undeniably a great shooter, as well as his playmaking / passing. I will say, like, if it's a DeMar DeRozan type, then I'm not going to knock you for that, because, like, if you don't have a 3-point shot at all, then that's not good. But anyways, I'll stick with your actual take. The 3-point shot's not good, as well as his playmaking / passing. He is by no means an average playmaker, but compared to Giannis and Jokic, there is a sizable gap between them. I don't know if there's a sizable gap between him and Giannis as playmakers. There is a very significant gap between him and Jokic. I think he deserves the MVP last year, no doubt, but he hasn't proven enough yet to be in the conversation for second or best in the NBA. Yeah, I did a thing about this. I did a video about Wemby that will be coming out tomorrow, where I actually did a brief aside about that whole conversation. And yeah, I don't understand why it has become really common for people to put Shea over Giannis. I don't think Shea has done enough to earn that. Like, yeah, he's the guy who most recently led his team to a championship. But is Giannis worse than he was in 2021? No. And Giannis was better in that run than Shea was in this one. And again, it's a two-way thing as well. Like, Giannis is a much more impactful defensive player than Shea, even if Shea is a pretty good defender. He's not Giannis level on defense. He doesn't have the rebounding factor. The playmaking isn't all that significantly different, even if I would lean towards Shea actually just being a smidge better. Only a smidge, though. And he could be a little bit more inconsistent than Giannis in that department, but I also think his heights are a little bit better. One way or the other, though, I don't think he's better than Giannis, and I definitely don't think he's better than Jokic, and I think people have just gotten too used to Giannis, and that is a big reason why this is the way that it is. From Give Us Stephen A. Recently was watching the Deep Dives Too Much Offense video, and I don't think that the 3-second paint rule should be changed. If the other changes in the video were made, illegal screens being called, no egregious carrying, no foul baiting, and allowing physicality to an extent, and allowing defenders to sit in the paint for that long would create a situation where teams could just load up the paint and take away what is statistically the most efficient shot, and would likely just push players out to the perimeter more. Okay, so I don't remember the exact details of the end of that video, video, but I believe my proposition was not to get rid of the 3-second rule, but to change it to like a 5 or 6 second rule. That is very substantially different than just taking it out of the game altogether. Maybe I advocated for getting rid of it altogether, but I've generally been against that, so I don't think that's what I did. But I also have a very poor memory of what I say, so I could be blanking on that. This is especially when you consider that foul baiting going away, then non-bigs driving to the basket like Brunson would become rarer. Yeah, the game back into a 3-point shootout. I don't, again, if it's a 5-second rule instead of a 3-second rule, I think that benefits the defense without changing the game fundamentally. I mean, you could argue it's already a fucking 5-second rule because it's not really called all that consistently, not to the exact second. But yeah, like I definitely agree that outright just getting rid of in the paint rule would be a bad idea. I don't think I said that though. I'm gonna have to go back and look. From Cade's Cunninghamster, making good hot takes is damn near impossible because the middle ground between a lukewarm take and rage bait is extremely hard to find. Yeah, tell me about it, as the guy who reacts to takes all the time, especially like trying to make a damn title out of these takes. First of all, people, in the case of this Discord, I welcome it because they're members of the Discord. By all means, expound for a really long time. But for those of you who comment on the hot takes videos on the Rusty Buckets channel, if you reply with an essay, you're not getting in the video. But the other thing is, like, there will either be takes that are like, okay, you're just saying some dumb shit to get a reaction, or the take's not hot enough that it's not really a compelling enough title, it's not controversial enough that people would click on it. So like, it's a difficult middle ground to make those takes, but it's also a difficult middle ground to pick one for a title, and it drives me nuts. It is probably the worst part about the hot takes videos. Otherwise, it's perfect. Otherwise, it's very easy content. I'm really thrilled with that, and I'm really happy that people give me that content by commenting. But good God, can it get annoying when it comes to picking a title, because it's either complete outlandish shit that, like, yeah, you don't even believe that yourself, or it's too lukewarm. From Gummycoma, Luka will go down as the second or third best player to never win MVP. I mean, it's Dwayne Wade who's the best to not win it, right? I mean, that's most people's answer. Maybe a peak Chris Paul, but I think Luka's gonna win an MVP. If Luka spends 3 years as a Laker, one of those years he's going to win it. Probably the nerdiest hot take ever, but stats should be equalized with per 75 possessions, not per 36 minutes or per 100 possessions. As a stat geek, it baffles me how the analytics community accepts that basketball is a possession-based game and no one plays a full 48 minutes of action, but never jumps to their per 75 like sane people would. Normalizing stats is still in the dark age with regular field goal percentage and triple-double apologists. We have the technology. Triple-double apologists. What does that even mean? Yeah, if you're using real field goal if you're using field goal percentage in 2025, you are way behind. And it's, God, don't even get me started on people who act like true shooting percentage is some fake metric. It's literally just taking field goal attempts, free throw attempts, and how many points you scored. That is the only factor in that equation. But per 75, I get that that's probably the most realistic way to equalize stats, but I don't know. It's not on Basketball Reference, I don't think, so that's why I don't use it. From D, the average modern NBA fan is really no different from the old heads. They disrespect their era just as the old heads do this era, and they will disrespect future eras the same. I mean, I'm already seeing people who are like my age, which is 25, fuck you, like dudes in their mid to late 20s, like talking down on the modern game, like, man, it's not like it was 5 years ago. Okay, man. It is a cycle. Like, there are people who just do that. That is just kind of the way that humanity has worked. Every time the generation that came after you is a bunch of pussies, and you and your generation were all cool. All of you were tough. All of you were the best in the world. And then everything started to suck after that. No, that's just a constant pattern throughout history. Also the same as like judging past generations through a modern lens, which in some cases is perfectly acceptable, but in the case of like fucking basketball, it's not. Like, just to keep it within the realm of basketball, I always like to make my cracker ball talking point. I don't value 1950s basketball because that shit was segregated. I am judging you through the future. Yeah. Segregation bad, Also, talent pool significantly worse, so the basketball is invalid. But just because they didn't understand spacing in the 1980s doesn't mean that basketball is invalid. Like, it's different when it's a sport versus like behavior and politics and all of that shit. Now, as for they disrespect their era, I think that there are absolutely extremes. There are absolutely extremes, no doubt. But I feel like old heads talk about this era like it is dirt beneath their feet. And I don't know that young NBA fans do that about the past nearly as much. Again, you can absolutely find people doing that, but most people aren't in the whole like, yeah, all basketball pre-2015 is invalid. Like, that's a crazy take. But there are old heads who will act like basketball post-2010 is invalid, and like for real invalid, like saying that like Jokic and Steph wouldn't even survive in their era. Just foolishness. Just complete horseshit where you're like, yeah, you guys are blind. You are completely ignorant to a crazy capacity. So I personally think old heads do a little bit worse. That's just a product of, I don't know, being closer to the grave, I guess. From Mosshead, I think the Magic will be the biggest disappointment in the NBA this season. People are expecting them to be an Eastern Conference final level team, and I just don't see it. The Baines signing, I'm sorry to give you this shit, Mosshead, because it's not you, really. I just keep seeing people do this, and it drives me a little bit crazy. I'm just too much of a control freak about language, I guess, but man, when people say signing when it's a trade or vice versa, drives me nuts. But the Bane trade, I don't see fixing the offense enough to beat the top teams like Cleveland and New York. One floor spacer doesn't erase legitimately one of the worst spaced offense in the last 10 years. Their center rotation also isn't good unless enough to deal with guys like Cat, Jokic, and Mobley. I think they need one more trade, trading for a big man like Jaren Jackson Jr. to be in that upper echelon. What makes you think they're... What? Yeah, they should just trade for a guy who was a top 15 player last season. That's fucking crazy. Yeah, I mean, one floor spacer on Desmond Bane's caliber definitely does erase them being one of the worst spaced offenses ever. Not to mention, Jalen Suggs played like 30 games, and he was their best shooter the season before that on pretty damn good volume. So you're not just getting... He shot very poor percentage-wise on way higher volume this year, but he was playing a lot without Paolo and Franz. So he was like having to be the first option sometimes, which he's absolutely not built for. But like, it's not just Desmond Bane, it's also that Jalen Suggs would at least hopefully be healthy throughout the entirety of the year and taking a higher quality of shots. And if Franz or Paolo, between the two of them, if one of them can just be a 36% three-point shooter on the same volume they're at, they just need Paolo and Franz to be good at three-point shooting, or at least better. And I do think they will be better. And considering that Desmond Bane is one of the best high-volume shooters in the NBA, Jalen Suggs shot 40% on like 5 attempts per game the season before last. Like, they definitely will not be the worst spaced offense in the last 10 years. So that does, in fact, erase them being that bad. If you want to say they're still going to be a poorly spaced team, I can get behind that. As for the center rotation, the problem with their center rotation is their offense, not their defense. They can keep up, like Wendell Carter and Goga Bitadze and John Isaac. All of them can deal with, first of all, they're not winning the East, so they don't have to worry about Jokic. The only players they have to worry about are Cat and Mobley, and maybe by some miracle Joel Embiid ends up being healthy. But like, Wendell Carter can defend Cat fine. He's not gonna do dick on offense, but he can defend. Same for Jonathan Isaac, same for Bitadze. So like, I don't get behind this at all. Also, insane to be like, oh yeah, they just got the third best player on the Grizzlies, let's just get the best player on the Grizzlies. This to me just highlights just how fucking underrated Jaren Jackson Jr. is, but we will move on. I gotta disagree with that. Bane, in my extreme hot take, is the Magic's best player. Their actual best shot maker in terms of percentages, good finisher, good in pick and roll and off of the dribble, good playmaker and rebounder for his position, solid defender, and has been one of the best players for a good playoff team multiple times. Dog, if fucking Desmond Bane had the shot volume of Paolo, he would not be the best shot maker in terms of percentages. Like, Desmond Bane has benefited significantly from not being the primary focus of the offense, and I would be willing to wager that in the games where he is the primary focus of the offense, when neither Ja nor Jaren are playing, he's not putting up numbers that are competing with that of Paolo, at least not in the efficiency metrics in a way that's like substantially different. Paolo just has way more capability of asserting himself. I agree that I think Bane has the best floor out of the top 3 players on the Magic, but he does not have anywhere near the ceiling of Paolo or Franz. Also, like, Franz, other than 3-point shooting, Franz is way better than Desmond Bane at finishing, ball handling, playmaking, rebounding, all of that, way better. Paolo, he takes a lot of mid-range shots that he's not very good at, and sometimes he can be disappointing as a finisher, but like, if we're just going skill for skill, Franz is definitely better outside of the jump shooting, and I think Paolo is definitely better outside of the jump shooting, so I just gotta disagree with you on that. I believe that Jokic is an elite level floor raiser, and I feel like it kind of threw a wrench after they won the chip. Like, Jamal and possession ends now man MPJ are good players. That's not the bad thing, but like, they got overpaid and it took away a few years off of winning a chip instead of saving some money and getting better role players. Let's just be honest, MPJ is 6'10" Cam Thomas, and Jamal, just in my opinion, doesn't deserve the money they gave him, but with these offseason moves, it will likely help them better in the long run. Okay, I need to check out the timeline on those contracts, because I think you're just wrong about this. Yeah, Michael Porter Jr.'s rookie extension was before they won a championship. He made that money. His first year making 31 was in 2022, 2023. So before he got that contract in the offseason of 2022. And in the case of Jamal Murray, the first thing that I would highlight is the man averaged 26, 6, and 7 on 47, 40, 93 shooting splits, which, if we just get the true shooting real quick, because I bitched about that earlier, 59%. He was unbelievable in that run. And I don't think it's just because Jokic like made him a substantially better player, but also I don't even think he got paid after that. Where is the contract at? Yeah, this contract, when did this contract hit in? I mean, maybe this was recently. Sign an extension September 11th, 2024. What a date to choose. Yeah, I mean, maybe he got this a season after because of that run, but like, that was still, like, he was making 30 mil going into it, is my point. Same was Michael Porter Jr. Like, they were both paid quite a bit before they won a championship. They didn't get that money after the fact as a payday for winning the title. And again, I think Jamal Murray, if you average this on a championship run as a second option, you can have 50 million a year annually. Like, I completely understand why they would choose to give him that money. Now, they chose to give him that money after this, where he fell off quite a bit, not the original 30 million a year extension, but where he got into like 50 territory. So if you want to say that was a mistake at this point, I'm not mad at that. That makes sense to me. No, your timeline is just incorrect here. The Rock winning an Oscar for The Smashing Machine would be the equivalent to Dirk winning the 2011 championship. No, the fuck it wouldn't. What are you talking about? Do you know how metaphors work? Do you know how good Dirk Nowitzki was before he won a champ? He played a majority of his career before that championship. Yeah, 8 years after, 12 years before. He was 32, and the Dallas Mavericks, this is something that gets left out because people act like championships are the only damn thing, the only thing that matters. But Dallas was a killer ass team year after year. 55 wins, 50 wins, 51 wins, 67 wins, 60 wins, 58 wins, 52 wins, 60 wins, 57 wins, 53 wins. This is Dirk's rookie season, so from his second year onward, they were a 50-win team every single year, including peaking at 67 wins. He has multiple seasons where he was great and an MVP in 2007. The Rock hasn't put up an even remotely good acting performance a day in his life until this movie came out. That would be more comparable to Linsanity than Dirk. What are you talking about? That's a terrible metaphor, and you should be ashamed. I'm just kidding. Johnny Broom's Strongest Soldier? I don't even know who the fuck that is. But no, bad metaphor. Get your metaphor game up, bro. All right, this will be the last one of the video from Conscious Feeling. I think Rusty and I are of similar minds where we believe Wemby could end up being the most talented NBA player ever, and that alone would give him a case for the greatest of all time conversation, which sucks. I hate the Spurs. What I think could throw a wrench in that is Wemby's ability to stack championships in this era. I'm of the opinion that winning a championship has never been harder in the NBA, and that stems from how talented NBA players are now. Everyone is good. Nearly everyone in an NBA rotation these days is either very skilled, very athletic, or some combination of both. In the modern league, the 4th through 8th man is so much better than ever before that having a superstar, even the best in the world talent, is, I don't want to say mitigated, but it isn't the unconquerable obstacle that it was in years past. That mixed with the self-imposed restriction NBA teams building that exists now, which I'm actually a fan of, and it seems we're running on here a little bit, makes me think even if he ends up being the best player in the world for a lengthy stretch, I think even Wemby might struggle to stack championships like players who sit in the GOAT conversation now. If there's any franchise I trust to build a dynasty in this era, it's the Spurs, though maybe that perception changes with Pop gone. Yeah, credit to him. Greg Popovich kind of is the reason that the Spurs organization has the reputation that it does, and I don't know how well that will be replicated in his wake, so we shall see. But I agree, like, Wemby's not going to win 6 championships. Probably not. Maybe it's possible, but I'm not banking on that one. So with that in mind, yeah, I agree basically with this take. Like, he will be one of the best to ever do it talent-wise, but it would be hard to actually, like, for the people who are going to be like, 6 rings, buddy, or LeBron has 4 rings, Wemby has however many. That argument will be there, but for people who actually want to have more than a surface level conversation, it won't be. Rudy asked if Wemby went 6-0 between the 2020s and 30s, would he be definitively the GOAT? I think so, because there aren't many cases of being the best defender and like a top 3 offensive player in the league while doing that. Hakeem did it, Tim Duncan did it, Wilt did it. Like, I'm going back to Wilt. So if you did that 6 times in a far more competitive era, because I don't think the competitiveness of this era is so substantial that it like completely eliminates Michael Jordan's era from the conversation. But like, winning 6 championships in the 2020s to me is infinitely, or in the 2020s and 30s, will be infinitely more difficult than it was to do it in the 1990s because of how the landscape of the league and the meta of the league has changed so fundamentally. It's just harder. And because it's so much harder, I think 6-0 while being the best defender in the world, and again, a top 3 offensive player in the world, I think that just has to be it. But yeah, that is it. Thank you so much for watching. Again, Patreon, top link in the description, all that, and goodbye.